YouTubers, welcome back to AZ2 Ozarks. It's been a while since we've given any updates on the basement, but today is the day. So we were going to have a guy do the texture on the drywall and the ceiling and all of the repairs in the basement. However, he has since decided that he wants to slow down and he's only doing new construction. So he no longer wanted our job, and everyone he referred us to was kind of in the same boat. So we were having a hard time finding someone to do the texture. We found a gentleman, a young man on Facebook Marketplace who was looking for work. He did general construction work and he had done plenty of drywall. He had pictures of work he had done and it looked decent. So we asked him what he would want for doing this job, and he wanted an hourly rate and us providing the materials. His hourly rate is extremely reasonable, and if he does a good job at this, it'll be a whole lot less than we were prepared to pay the quote professional guy. So this young man is supposed to be here today to begin work. So we have hung the new sheetrock, and his job will be taping, mudding, and doing the texture. So because we're not having the professional guy do it, we're going to do this in phases. So we will be doing this bedroom and then the next bedroom over right here next. So this will be the first phase. And so more sheetrock needs to be hung in the closet there and the closet ceiling where it was damaged. And he will also be doing the corners. We want all this bullnose instead of the sharp corners. That kind of is a little more modern. But that'll be the first phase of this project, and then we'll continue in other areas of the basement. Assuming he's doing a good job, we have plenty of work and his price is extremely reasonable. So let's hope for the best today. Part of preparing the bathroom remodel is chipping up the linoleum, and the bar isn't working from the standing position. Usually it scrapes up, but this stuff is seriously glued down. So we've enlisted the help of the young people, and they've made a sign in it too. Pretty funny, but they're making good progress, and this bathroom will be beautiful once we put in a tile floor and a new vanity and a new bathtub. It's gonna be really neat. Now we are 2 7.5-hour days into this project, paying the young man who's doing this. So you can see he's taped and mudded the edges of the 2 walls. He hasn't yet done the ceiling seam on most places. He has done the closet opening and the bullnose on this corner. So yeah, that's 15 hours of labor, and there's still a lot of work that has to be done in here. You can see there's holes that need to be repaired. There's a whole lot down there. So there's still a lot of work, and we haven't even begun the texture yet. So yesterday, because this was seeming to be a really slow process for the gentleman, Rick jumped in and started on the next room over. Let's walk over there. So this next room, and yesterday alone, Rick did the bullnose here, the whole top bullnose there. He installed the drywall, taped, mudded, started taping and mudding on the top, did the closet bullnose. And so there's still sheetrock needs to be hung in the closet still. But additionally, he came over to, not the bathroom, the kids are working on the floor. And in here, he started doing, so this sheetrock all had to be replaced. He did that and the mud and tape and then the bullnose. So the gentleman is supposed to come back today and work again. However, he just messaged me saying that he's now going to be here at 10 today. So I don't know if he's losing interest in the job or I don't know. That's not how my husband and I work when we have a commitment and a job. But I can tell you this, the reason we hired him is because the quote experts are busier than they know what to do with. And it's becoming more difficult to find people who not only have the skill to work, but also the desire. And you may say, well, why didn't Rick just do this whole job himself? He's able to. Well, the problem wasn't his ability. It was this part of the job was something he really didn't want to do. And his time is better used elsewhere. So he has a shop to be working on and building, and my father-in-law's coming out this week to help build the shop. They built our shop back in Havasu, I don't know, like 15 years ago together. And so my father-in-law is skilled with construction, and so is my husband, but they need to be setting footers and things like that. They don't want to be working on the basement, but the basement is a priority to me, so he's trying to keep me happy. But unfortunately, we aren't terribly excited about the work we're receiving from the guy we're paying. Rick's got to go into town, get more mud, and then they're going to get back at it. And Rick and the guy will probably start about the same time at 10 o'clock when Rick is back with the materials and the guy shows up. So I've spent about the last hour chipping drywall mud off of this floor because the guy we hired to work on the drywall wouldn't listen to put down the plastic and the tape like we had asked him. I think it was on the third day. So the first day I gave him plastic and tape and I said, here you go, you can tape it all up so it's nice and neat. And he didn't. And then Rick checked on him and said, well, why don't you put down the plastic? It's kind of messy, and walked away. He asked him a second time when he hadn't done it. And then on the third day, Rick said, you need to stop what you're doing and put down plastic. Well, he had already made a heck of a mess. And when he put down the plastic, he covered everything. And then he didn't do a good job with the plastic, and he ripped it and continued to make a mess. Plus, he had taped it up along the new drywall, and so when I just had to take the tape off, it ripped the drywall. So, needless to say, the guy is not coming back. He's fired. He had an issue with getting here on time. He had one day that he didn't show up at all, and about 10:30, Rick says, well, tell him just not to come, and right as I was messaging him not to come, he texted me saying, oh, I don't feel very good today. I'll come in tomorrow. Or do you want me to come in tomorrow? And I said, if you can be here at 8 a.m. And then he was here at 8 a.m. the next morning. And this is the only room he has worked on. And it is not ready for texture, and it is not textured. And he had about $525 worth of labor into this one room. Okay, this basement is 1,500 square feet, and this is one bedroom. We can't afford that. At his rate, we thought his hourly rate of $20 an hour was reasonable, but not at the rate that he is working. So Rick told him to pack up his tools and leave. The guy had the nerve to message me shortly thereafter and ask if I wanted him to come back on Monday. And I said, absolutely not. I said, we're not satisfied. Well, instead of apologizing or offering a new rate or anything different, he argued with me that I wasn't going to be able to find anyone who could do better work. And I'll regret having someone else finish this job, and he'll have to come back and fix it. So that's what we were dealing with. The professional contractors are still all booked far out. They're not available, they're busy. I did meet another guy who has a handyman business in town, and he said he would do the job, but he won't do the texture, but he'll get it all ready. And Rick can do the texture. That's not that big of a deal. It's spray on and knock down. So he starts tomorrow, but I wanted this to be cleaned up before he starts, so he sees, you know, my expectation is a neat workplace. I'm hoping for the best. By golly, I am hoping for the best. The guys are now working on a totally different project and don't have time for this, and I really want my kids to be able to have bedrooms. So the first guy we hired did not work out and only led to a bunch of frustration, and the way he left this job site was just disgusting. And under the plastic, he had left standing water with mud in it. And so there was a section right here that had mold. I scraped that all up. So very dissatisfied. So it's probably gonna take me some more time to get this cleaned up. And then tomorrow we're hoping for the best. All right, now I have the room cleaned up, everything removed out of it, the floor's cleaned up, and it is all taped up with plastic and ready to go. So whatever mess happens, we should be good to go today. I'm crossing my fingers that this is all going to go so smoothly and we will soon have this finished. All nice and smooth. The floor is relatively cleaned up. The corners are smooth. And we're ready for texture. The newest gentleman started work on this room today. He spent 6 hours here and then left, which I was kind of surprised about, but he says this room is now ready for texture. He sanded everything, he touched up some mud, and it really does, in the scheme of things for drywall, looks pretty darn good. I know that texture covers a lot of mistakes. He also swept up when he was finished. Of course, it tore the plastic a little bit when he was sliding around the step stool, but we are relatively satisfied. However, we only get one more day of work out of him before there's a big gap because he's in demand, and then we won't get him again for a couple weeks. So I'm hoping tomorrow we can accomplish a little bit more in the other room because it doesn't have so many mistakes. The guys have put a jack in place here in this area where it was 2 rooms that we wanted to combine into one, and there was a load-bearing wall. This is in the basement, and so they used this thick board on the top in order to spread out the weight, distribute it while it has the one jack pressing up into the center. They cut out the supporting beam and the supporting wall and are now working on getting a new beam installed that will be strong enough to span this, I believe it's 12 feet, in order to span this distance without having to have support beams going up and down. You have to excuse all the mess over here. Right now, it is a storage area for all the kids' stuff and furniture that will ultimately go in their rooms when it's finished. But this is really huge progress. They will be drilling into the top of the beam in order to run the electrical wires. So there will be a way to run the wires through there because the wires did come down to a couple electrical outlets that were in the wall and then go back up and continue on. So we couldn't just cap off that electric circuit as it did go to other things and is necessary. So the guys just milled this from logs that we got on our neighbor's property, actually. They felled some trees and offered for us to come take them since they didn't have a tractor or a way to move them, and it worked out perfectly. So this is a beautiful white oak log. Now will be a beam for the center of our 2 rooms converting into one. In the basement bathroom here, we are getting ready to install the new drywall as well as the concrete board for behind the shower. But we figured we better get the new vanity in here first to make sure that all the plumbing lines up, because the plumbing doesn't line up for the bathtub. So we brought it in here, and sure enough, the plumbing does not line up at all. So all of it has to be moved, and that conflicts with where the supports are. So Rick's going to have to do some creative plumbing here in order to make it work with the vanity. Now we have had 2 guys who have done work on our drywall in the basement. And the first one we had to fire because he had almost a full week into one room, and that room wasn't even ready for texture. The second guy, he got started, and he was a handyman that I had actually met at the farmer's market, and I felt like he was doing a pretty good job. But it turns out he kind of, I don't know if quit's the right word, but he said he no longer wanted to work on the project. He felt that he was not skilled enough to continue the project. So he stopped, and then we called a company that was referred to us by some friends. They actually specialize in gutters, and my girlfriend from Arizona had them do the gutters on their house, and they were really happy with them, felt that they were extremely competent and go-getters. But while they were there, they were talking about how they wanted to expand into the drywall market because there's nobody around here doing drywall. So I gave them a call, they came over, they looked at our job, and they said, yes, we're going to do it. But I did get a call on Monday that the guys that they had experience in drywall who were working with them went back to other jobs, I think on oil rigs or something like that. So they lost their experienced drywall guys, but they still want to do the job and they still want to break into the drywall market. So they aren't really skilled at it. And so 2 of the guys, the owner of the company and his project manager, are going to come starting tomorrow, and with Rick's supervision and guidance, they're going to work on our drywall. Now, the cool part is that they're doing it free of charge. So we're getting free labor on this. I hope we don't regret it, but they're not really skilled. So I guess that's the trade-off. We have a lot to do as far as taping, mudding, and then of course texture. We have a couple rooms that are ready for texture. And then of course all the ceilings. So today I just prepped this room. This is the 2 bedrooms combining into one. Got the ceiling popcorn off, and it's ready for some touch-up mud before it gets texture. So we're hoping that this works out well. I mean, it's kind of been a frustrating process finding someone who can help us with this really big drywall job. All right, guys, so you have to excuse the teenager mess, but this room is now finished as far as the drywall goes. So Rick was able to do all the texture, and we have painted it. It still needs finishing touches, like all of the outlets. We're changing them all to white, and it needs the vent covers and the trim for the windows and the baseboards and a door. But at least this one room, the drywall is finished, and I think it looks quite nice. We're happy with it. What happened is we had the guys helping us for 3 days. So the guys who do not do drywall but want to learn drywall, so they came for 3 days and they hung sheetrock, mudded, and did sanding. But they had their other business to do, so they ran out of time and they are back to their business, and we are lacking a lot of other progress. So this is the quote guest room. That was 2 rooms that we're combining into one, and obviously still a lot of work to do on the hallways and stuff. We've got one of the bullnose in there. The bathroom still needs a lot of work. This room is pretty darn close to ready for texture. So this is another bedroom. A problem in here was that every time Rick kept sanding, it would pop the screws out of the drywall, and he'd have to go back and mud it again and sand it again. This closet ended up turning out really nice. So this was where we had extensive water damage, and like the ceiling had been rotted out and everything. Rick ended up building the ceiling dropped lower because it previously had been in there at a normal height, so like the normal ceiling height. However, it didn't fit quite right around the plumbing pipes that are above us. And so there was a bow in the drywall there where they had just like pressed it around. So Rick built a frame and dropped it down. He also added electrical so he could do 2 can lights in here. And there's also going to be a light switch just inside the door there. He went through and he ended up skim coating the entire room because there was so much damage to the existing drywall and variances in the texture that he decided he just wanted to have a clean slate and start from scratch. So really, he now wishes that he had just put new sheetrock all on the whole ceiling too, because there's so many issues with the screw heads and nail heads popping out from the previous work. So he still has a little bit of sanding left to do in this room. And really that's the furthest we've gotten in the basement. So the bathroom still needing more work. The kitchenette is pretty close to ready for texture, but see, it now has this old style texture, and Rick likes the newer style drop down texture. So he's probably ultimately going to end up skim coating the entire basement to redo all of the drywall texture for the whole basement. So that's the kitchenette. We just have the vanity for the bathroom setting in here for right now. Another place that the guys had helped with was hanging the sheetrock on this wall. It's got a little bit of the mud and sanding done. Obviously the ceiling still needs a lot of work. We may be taking down the entire ceiling because there's damage there. We're taking down this whole center of ceiling because the air conditioning runs through there and there was condensation and stuff, so there's all kinds of water damage there. Another wall that had work on it is over here. So this is also still needing more sanding and work. So I started this video back in June when we started working on all of this drywall, and it's now September. And I have to tell you, we're really tired of this job. Rick hates drywall, he hates sanding. He doesn't mind like hanging the sheetrock and mudding it. It's when we get to the sanding part that he hates. And he's really a perfectionist, so he just keeps at it, when really maybe it was fine the way it was, but he keeps working at it. So we are a long way from being finished with this basement project. And this is only the beginning. We still have the whole main floor that we wanted to do, remove the popcorn ceiling. And there's also all of the corners. So like we want all of the corners to be bullnose. So that's the whole house. If you guys know of any professional drywallers in the area, my goodness, please send them our way. I mean, I don't mean someone who's done drywall before and they can do drywall. We've got plenty of that. We need someone who is proficient, someone who comes in, they knock out the job with super awesome skill. They're fast, efficient, effective. We will pay for it. We want somebody who is really competent. And so if you guys know anyone, please in the comments below, tell us, or I don't know, hope for the best, I guess. Otherwise, Rick's probably going to move on from this project. He has other projects he has to do before it starts freezing outside. So we'll just keep waiting longer, I guess. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a bit of a frustration for us, but we'll just keep on plugging along. So give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to keep following our adventure.